So for our topic for our social justice presentation, we're doing Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. So what Black Lives Matter means to me is basically it supports civil rights for Black people. And in our society, racism is one of the biggest problems today, specifically when it comes to Black people. And everyone deserves the right to be treated equally. Black Lives Matter is a movement that brings awareness to injustice in the world. And then on here we have different tweets from people such as celebrities and political figures, and they're all various opinions of Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, and Blue Lives Matter. So to answer the question of what is Black Lives Matter, it was a movement that was founded by Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi after the shooting of Trayvon Martin in 2012. And then it started as a hashtag and went viral after that. And basically it was a movement created to create awareness and civil rights for Black people. Here we have a timeline of the events that led up to how big the movement is today. So it started with the death of Trayvon Martin in 2012. He was visiting his father and his father's fiance in Florida, and he went to the convenience store to get Skittles and tea. And George Zimmerman, who was a watch for the neighborhood watch program, had a gun with him and called the police and reported suspicious activity, and the police told him to stay in the car, but he disobeyed the instructions and took out his gun and shot and killed the kid. And after that, people started using the hashtag Black Lives Matter, and it went viral and became a huge thing. And then in 2014, the movement became even bigger when Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson by a white police officer. And then in 2015, Black Lives Matter activists went to Sacramento to fight for rights for stricter police oversight and to protect themselves against police brutality. And then in 2016, the hashtag went global and went all around the world and became a bigger movement. And then in 2017, the National Rifle Association released anti-Black Lives Matter advertisements, basically telling people to fight the resistance. And then in 2018, police officers started using statistics in order to prevent protests. Basically, they didn't want people protesting because they were against the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and they were worried about what people would do. And then this year, there are people in Utah that are demanding to see police footage where a man was critically injured.
So now we're going to speak about how Black Lives Matter gives credit. So the first question is, does Black Lives Matter actually discredit anyone? And when going through multiple sources online, Black Lives Matter isn't meant to discredit anyone. It just promotes the love of the self and the African American rights for equal justice and fairness. So basically all that means is just because people are able to love themselves does not mean that they do not love other people and that they cannot fight for the fairness of other people. So they just basically want to get away from police brutality and love their own cultural identity, rather than hurt people that are not Black, of course.
So just like how Delaram was saying, that to answer the question of whether it gives credit to anyone or not, I also want to ask her to keep the conversation going about whether All Lives Matter actually discredits a positive movement such as Black Lives Matter. And of course, we all know that all lives do matter, and just how feminism doesn't pertain to just females, it also brings up the equality for males, as well as hold both genders and all genders to the same standards as one another. Black Lives Matter wants to equalize the treatment of Black lives and have them be treated as equals, just as whites. And to say that all lives matter does discredit Black Lives Matter because you're taking a minority group who is constantly being targeted and trying to demean a movement made for them and say, oh, you shouldn't have a movement because everyone else is suffering. When yes, everyone else is suffering, but one is always suffering more than the other. And in terms of racial equality, the Black community is heavily undermined by the dominant group being whites, and they are constantly being targeted by police brutality, by any form of racism, and even stereotypes.
So here we have a comic that basically breaks this down in the most simple form. Here we see a house on fire and a house not on fire. And the house not on fire has its own problems, which is rotting, but the house on fire needs immediate attention from the fire hose. Yet the person who is hosing down their house that has the rot basically says, well, all houses matter. So why should I give immediate attention to your issue when my house also has damage? This is basically a summarization of how people are treating the Black Lives Matter movement when they say all lives matter. Yes, all lives do matter. Yes, all people have their own struggles. But when we are trying to focus on one issue, which is violence against Black people, violence against Black youth, the inability for the youth to grow and prosper in this world, as well as police brutality being targeted against the Black youth. When we discredit that, we are getting rid of this idea that we should help them, that, oh, well, I have my own issues, so I'm gonna help myself first. That is not how we progress in the world. That is not how we develop a sustainable way of living as human beings. We need to fix issues, and we need to fix them together, just like the civil rights movement of the 1960s and 1970s. So now we're going to talk about white privilege and how all lives matter and blue lives matter ties into that. When we think of blue lives matter, we're thinking about police officers, and that's why the movement was created. Now, as much as, you know, we all respect our law enforcement, they did choose their job. We do not choose the skin we are born in. We do not choose the circumstances that we are born in. We are just born into them. And when we tell Black people that their lives matter, but so do the police officers who chose their circumstances, it kind of discredits the whole idea of, well, I was born a certain way and I can't control that, and you are mistreating me at this point. It discredits the fact that they are speaking out against this mistreatment. It puts them down even further because they are protesting the 1% of police officers that do cause the brutality in the first place. So, I mean, all lives matter is covered by Black Lives Matter. They have issued several tweets speaking for Muslim rights or different ethnicity groups. And it perpetuates the idea that Black lives, you know, they hold an importance as of right now. Saying all lives matter is comparing the struggles of people who benefit from white privilege versus people who will never see that privilege. And it's kind of disappointing that we live in such a society.
And to further prove our point and to further show what we're talking about, we have this comic right here that's saying, what's the matter? It's the same distance. And while, yes, it's the same distance, obviously the white man has an easier time to get into his goals. Yes, he might have some hurdles, but as you can see, he can also have a sidestep to avoid those hurdles and just keep going. While the Black woman here is not only being chained down, but she has all of these obstacles where it's not only hard to get through, but sometimes it's even almost impossible and exhausting to go through to the point whether we don't know if the end game or the end goal is actually worth it or not. And then here we go again with white privilege, a tweet saying white privilege doesn't mean your life hasn't been hard. It means that your skin color isn't one of the things making it harder, which is true, because white privilege in itself is just saying, oh, look at the color of my skin, so I can do whatever I want to do without having any consequences. Whereas me, as a Hispanic and Latino male, the color of my skin being brown, I can just wear a classic hoodie and just walk down to my street, and someone would easily and quickly racial profile me as someone dangerous or as someone who means to harm someone else. Where in actuality, I'm just trying to get home, or I'm just going on my way to work or something. And just because the color of my skin tells other people that I'm dangerous doesn't actually mean that I'm dangerous. It just shows me that the color of my skin will tell everyone, or will tell someone, all they need to know, or quote unquote, all they need to know about me, just because I'm brown and I fit into the stereotype of a dangerous Latino. And here's another quote that says, if your white privilege and class privilege protects you, then you have an obligation to use that privilege to take stands that work to end the injustice that grants that privilege in the first place. So basically that's saying that if you are in a position of power, rather than using that position of power to hold others down, at least use that position of power to bring those people, those minorities up. Use your position of power to bring awareness of what's going on. Use your position of power to help the poor, help the racial discrepancy between blacks, brown people, and all people of color to white people, and bring them up to the same standard as white people, and bring them up to that equality.
And here we see why using the term Black Lives Matter is not as nearly as offensive as All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter. Basically, it shows how Black Lives Matter turns into All Lives Matter, but then when it turns into Blue Lives Matter, all of a sudden it's okay to put a color on it. Why is that so? Why is it that we can't say Black Lives Matter, but when we use Blue Lives Matter, it's suddenly an accepted fact? This seems to be rampant, and especially due to Donald Trump coming into presidency. I know that might be a controversial subject for some, but it is much more expressed. The lack of support for our different ethnic groups that are asking the masses to help them. They have been put aside. White supremacy is making a rise again. And this clearly shows it when people have an issue with the word Black, but they don't have an issue with the word blue. Here we see a police officer who understands the differences, who wants to support the Black Lives Matter movements. He is wearing blue. He is actually a sheriff in one of the towns where there's a lot of injustice, according to the caption that I had read. And he is standing up for the people that can't speak for themselves. He is using his privilege in the most positive way that he can. He is fighting the movement with his actions while wearing his uniform, which is very rare. He could get so much backlash for it, but he's willing to put himself out there. Here we have Sandra Bland, and if you don't know about Sandra Bland, she was actually murdered 3 months after being in the prison system, after being pulled over for a routine traffic stop. She had even spoken out before her death saying, "Show me in American history where all lives have ever mattered." And that makes a great point, because where in American history has every single type of life mattered? If the All Lives Matter movement is so, persistent, about pushing all lives matter. Well, show us a time when that was, you know, something that was actually plausible, something that could actually, you know, show me the facts, show me the credibility behind it, because I don't see it. And neither did Sandra Bland, and so do the people behind the Black Lives Matter movement. They don't see it. That's why we're fighting for it.
In order to advocate and make change for the Black Lives Matter movement, we provided 5 different resources. So the first one is Organize For, and it's a website where you can start a campaign and then get in contact with the people who start the company to find out about information and resources provided for those that need them. The next one is Campaign Zero, and basically their goal is to end police brutality by people working together and creating policies and putting them in place. And Campaign Zero is associated with the Black Lives Matter movement. And on the website, you can actually look up representatives in your area and see where they stand and what their position is, and then you can get into contact with them, which is really helpful. Another one is the Black Lives Matter website, and you can find an action or you can submit an action, and then you can also sign up to receive reminders about important information and then any upcoming events, and you can also donate to Black Lives Matter. And a fourth one is the NAACP website, where you can become a member and get involved with the community, and there's many, many different local NAACP units, so you can find one in your area and become a member. And then the last one is the National Urban League, which is basically an organization that advocates for civil rights for African Americans. And then on the website, you can sign up and become a member and receive updates, and you can also volunteer and you can use your voice to bring awareness about injustice. That concludes our presentation.
So now that you have all the information necessary, I did want to use this time for you to look through the website. So I'm going to pause through on each. And I really suggest that you sign up for one of these ways to make a change. As we said before, it became a global movement. We want that to keep going. We want people to recognize that there's white privilege in the world. There's an exercise of power that's unnecessary. There's a lack of information, even with the celebrities when they were backing up the All Lives Matter. They did not understand the backstory to Black Lives Matter. So I really suggest somebody or everybody signs up for at least one of these campaigns in order to make a change in the world and to go forward. So we'll give you about 15 seconds each slide to jot down the website names and take note. So I hope everybody appreciated our presentation and walked away with something. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask under the comments section. We would love to answer them. And if you have any suggestions or comments, that would also be appreciated. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.